Hello there. There's a strange idea that men cannot enjoy romance films because they are women's pictures and thus not made for them. However, it's not hard to find a romance that works for both genders and has material they can find enjoyment in. Nora Ephron's work comes to mind, as do the films written by Richard Curtis. Certainly one of the finest examples of a romantic comedy that I think enough people can relate to and why it has such appeal is Bridget Jones's Diary. Yes, I own a copy of this movie, and yes, I've seen it a good number of times, because it's great. Part of what makes Bridget Jones's Diary click is the title character. When it was announced Renee Zellweger would play the role, there was quite a bit of outrage, not unlike when Ben Affleck was chosen to play Batman. However, once the film was released, she proved to be absolutely fantastic in the role. In addition to nailing the accent, she brought an instant likability and relatability to the part. There's a believability there to a character that could have easily been written in a one-dimensional and over-the-top way, and this definitely stands as a reminder of why Zellweger was so fantastic at her peak. In many ways, there's a bit of Bridget Jones in all ourselves as we try to navigate through life and beat the obstacles handed to us. Sometimes we make blunder-headed mistakes and align ourselves with the wrong people and want to be with good people. We also try to improve ourselves in areas when it's not necessary. Bridget Jones portrays all our real-life warriors and presents them in her. There's been a lot of talk lately about a system that seeks to combat gender bias called the Bechdel test, that passes or fails a movie based on a set of criteria surrounding the female characters in said media. However, if a movie like Bridget Jones's Diary, which has such a strong female lead, and that's not a term I throw out often, that can appeal to both men and women, fails the test, it's a pretty flawed system in my opinion. Another reason the movie works is a smart and witty screenplay. The jokes are not there to provide a cheap laugh, but are actually there for character development. Whether it be the humorous diary entries where Bridget writes promises she ultimately doesn't keep, or her examining her underpants drawer, each one works in making Bridget more endearing than she already is. Hugh Grant has quite possibly his best role here as Daniel Cleaver, a womanizing editor who is a bit full of himself, and Grant seems to be having a grand old time portraying the character's smarmy side. Meanwhile, a lovely heart comes through with Colin Firth as Mark Darcy, yes, named after the character from Pride and Prejudice. He successfully portrays both his no-nonsense side and the part of his personality that really feels for Bridget. It is certainly one of the most heartwarming scenes of any romantic comedy. Firth nicely shows why he loves Bridget, regardless of her faults. However, what makes Darcy work is he's an actual three-dimensional character, and not simply there to satisfy female fantasies of the perfect man. The script, along with a strong direction from Sharon Maguire, do a great job of taking us through Bridget's year, and succeeds in giving her actual growth without taking away what makes the character so special and endearing. And then there's the sequel. While most of the principal people returned for Bridget Jones, The Edge of Reason, Sharon Maguire did not return to direct, and it's immediately evident that there's a different filmmaker behind the camera. A lot of the wit from the earlier film is mostly absent, and strangely the characters feel different. The reasoning for Bridget and Mark's eventual breakup is completely in contrast from their personalities in the first one, and the only genuine heart appears at the very end, which is too little, too late. While Bridget tripped a bit in the first one, she is downright clumsy in the sequel, with one pratfall after another. It almost felt like watching a Home Alone movie of all the slapstick that finds its way on screen. Then there's a strange detour it takes in a Thai prison, but it mostly revolves around a lot of the expected romantic comedy tropes, and considering the sharpness of its predecessor and how it played with the norm, that's very disappointing. In conclusion, I think Bridget Jones's Diary is one of the best romantic comedies out there, because it's funny and smart, and has one of the best female leads I've seen in any movie. It's endlessly rewatchable and an absolute gem, regardless of your gender. See you next time.